send him to my father's house, for I have these 5 brothers, and I want him to come and testify to them, lest they come to this place of torment. Now, torment keeps being repeated in this story. So that's a serious place to be. Okay. And if you love somebody, you don't want them to be in misery just because you are. If you go to prison, you don't want your 5 brothers to come there because you know what prison life is like. If you're homeless, you don't want everybody around you to be homeless. So, now there are exceptions because there's the saying, misery loves company. And then I added to that and said, not just any company, bad company. So he says, listen, if they don't hear Moses and the prophets, because all through from the very beginning, God had standards. He had rules. He told Adam and Eve, you can have anything you want, but don't touch that one tree. And of course, that's the one tree that they went to. And so he's saying if they didn't hear Moses, they didn't hear the prophets, they ain't going to be persuaded. Just because I send someone that's been dead and comes to them, that's not going to help them. The hope of the Christians is to see Jesus. Whatever it takes, whatever sacrifices we have to make, no matter what our lifestyle is or is not, a true Christian, a saved person, wants to see Jesus. And that's what we live to do. That's why we walk on this Christian journey, despite the hardships. If there are hardships, we ask God, even if you don't move the mountain, just give me the strength to climb it. So we are always expecting, because Jesus said, ask anything in my name, I'll give it to you. Now, of course, those are righteous things. Don't ask him, let me not get caught when I rob this bank this afternoon, me and my buddies. But righteous things, there's everything they needed was in the law that Moses put down, that God gave him. And then the prophets, they knew what God expected. And they were able to talk to people and persuade them. That didn't happen in this story. They're not going to be persuaded by the prophets. It's still some there. It was some there when you were living. The one raised from the dead. Nobody, once your assignment, whatever assignment you have in life or death, that's fixed. You can't you can't bargain with God. You can't try to make a contract with him. He has offered us salvation. He has shed his blood at the cross for the remission of everybody's sin, everybody who accepts him. That's why we use the word saved. We saved from hell. We're saved from the misery. And this rich man, that tells us how bad it's going to be. But there's no crossing. We have to make that decision while we live, so when we pass away, our souls go right to the Lord. I don't even care if they're in a holding place. I don't know. The Bible infers that there are many under the altar of God. But wherever that spot is, God has promised us that through the shed blood of his Son. You don't always get what you want in this life, but God will give you what you need if you trust him. Okay, are there any questions or comments before we close the lesson? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It is. I'm sorry, what was that? Uh-huh. Yes. That's it. Not at all. And if God has a plan for your life, he can free. One of the best preachers I've heard, he was a heroin addict for however many years, and God saved him, and he learned of him and made him a preacher. He was pastoring his church. And he loved to tell that story where he came from. All of us have a testimony of where God has brought us from. Okay. Do we have any questions? Do we have any comments before we close? Any more? I'm sorry. Thank you so much. You're just kind, Deacon. It does. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so the Bible is available. They have children's Bibles where you can understand it on that level. They didn't have that when we were kids. So, but we were exposed. When you go to church, even if you're a child, you don't understand nothing. I remember being 5 and asking my mother, why is she crying? We sitting in church, why are you crying? I thought church was a happy place. And she's saying it's the Spirit of God. Well, it was some time before I realized what that meant. But absolutely, absolutely. And he abides with us on a daily basis. Thank you. Deacon, you want to offer a closing prayer?